Launching the intro.
Okay. And go. TROM-Cast number 55. And in this TROM-Cast, we're going to discuss about the gift economy, because maybe something very similar to what we are talking about at TROM. This gift economy. It's an old notion that is revived today in a sense. And we are going to discuss more about it and the details of it and how it compares to TROM. But before we discuss about the gift economy, we are going to go a bit through some TROM-created news quickly, a few minutes. That's what we do here at TROM-Cast. And if you want to join to discuss about the gift economy, because I know there are many people around TVP or TCM or these RB groups that talk a lot about the gift economy, then you can join. It's quite simple. Go on tromsite.com/chat, for example, and you see the link there. Anyone can join. And I just realized when we disconnected from Jitsi, we use this Jitsi Meet, this trade-free app, Jitsi Meet and service, and I realized that they put ads now, which is like not surprising to see, for the sake of profits, this projects transform into something different. So I closed Jitsi Meet and they're like, oh, you want your own logo? Oh, you want this and that? Just $10 a month, They go on the slippery slope of you can use their instances, use other ones. So we will going to try for the next one other instances to see how they work. But it was just not that surprising, but a bit sad to see that. And we also have Dan with us. I invited him because he knows maybe a bit more about the gift economies, but we will go into that after we go through some news for a few minutes. We get this news from our curated tool. It's tromsite.com/tools. We create news videos and so forth. And Cody, let's just go a bit through some of them. Let's see what do we have here. What news is in the news today?
I have your privacy news extravaganza up first.
Yeah, I think this one is they talk about multiple news about privacy, but what I kind of grabbed my attention was that is this news that physical billboards, are tracking now users. So they have this kind of contracts with, let's say, carriers, say Vodafone or whatever. I know what you have there, T-Mobile. I don't know. And let's say these big companies have contracts with them, and then you are their customer. And whenever you pass through across some billboards or something with your car or whatever, you give that billboard a ping, like pow, he's been there, pow, he's been there. How many people go, in front of this billboard and so forth. So you see this kind of data mining, gets more and more into these traditional ways of billboards, because back in the days, or even today, of course, billboards are just the static ads, basically, and you can kind of avoid them maybe, or sometimes they are so into your face you cannot. But now they are going to track you, so
and they're probably also, through a lot of data collection, they'll be able to see what kind of people drive in what kind of places, and then because of that billboard, maybe they can put certain billboards based on that. I don't know.
Oh yeah, they all get sneakier and sneakier. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, it's like people don't realize this, but I think many people don't realize. But this data trading and attention trading economy is going to be so big. You'll see. I haven't seen anything yet. No, everything will be so offline. The offline and online will marry and have sex and have many children.
Yes, yes.
They'll pop many this smart that. Like we discussed many times in TROM-Cast. You'll see. They start with billboards, but next like cars and roads and shops, and they already have a bunch of those. So yeah. So just a positive news.
Yeah. Holy rollers. The religious leaders using the church to launder illicit cash across the Americas. No way.
That's an interesting article showing how they are laundering money through churches, and because it's quite easy. Churches, like many tribes, are devoid of paying taxes. They don't have to pay taxes. No taxes. No one asks them like, where did you get that money from? It's like, oh, just God, You swear, I swear, So they find links between them and Mexican cartels and lots of other shady organizations. Is that surprising? I think it's fucking surprising, but it's a good investigation looking and from many tribes, how this rolls out. Yeah. Because, for example, in Romania, where I'm from, if you look into any city, especially the city where I am from, just look at houses and cars, and you will see, you will identify who is priest there and who is not a priest. Okay? The biggest house and the most expensive car is owned by the priest in that town. Is that surprising? I'm sure that guy is not honest about the fucking money and so forth. You see, even religion doesn't stop you from being a slave of this trade. It's like, this game of like, I want more, I fucking want more. Yeah, religion, not the solution.
Oh, it has come to this, Tio. Ignore vaccines and animals. Drug
So there's
industry.
anti-vaxxers against animal vaccines?
No. I think the scientists against animal vaccines this time, because they present data, like it's almost like PR for companies to make vaccines. It's like, we have this very this great vaccine, but they only tested it in animals, So at least be honest about that, because what happened now with this COVID is explosion of news. Like, we made the vaccine. No, we made the vaccine. Yeah, all kinds of information bombarded, everywhere. So yeah, this article is about how you have to calm your tits down. When it comes to vaccines in animals, just calm down, because it's just in animals. It needs a lot more, to be proven in humans than that. So yeah.
Okay. The ice sheet.
Another positive news.
Yes, very positive. Very positive. If you're not living on this planet. The ice sheet melt on track with the worst case climate scenario. What the hell? Climate scenario. Oh, man. Jeez.
So, Sasha, what do you think about that? Because you're in this kind of subject of things melting.
Melty things.
Yeah, it's not good and not surprising. I would expect what's happening with the climate now to reflect the worst case scenario predictions from the IPCC, because we're not doing anything to stop climate change, and it's just, and I would expect it to, in the next coming decades, to be even worse than the worst case scenarios, from things like melting permafrost, which they don't even have, in the scenarios now as a way to predict what's going to happen. And that's going to be really bad, because it's going to release a lot of methane and CO2, and it's so not surprising.
I was jokingly thinking about this thing, like if someone will tell humans, like aliens will come on Earth and be like, look, dudes, like 100 years ago, you have 200 years. If you melt the polar ice sheets, polar caps in 200 years, I don't know what the fuck you do, but just melt them. I'll give you eternal life. They'll be like, what the fuck? What can we do to do that? Oh my God, that will be like a huge task. Should we make like a big fire in the north and in the south? Oh, guess what? They kind of managed to do that indirectly, It seems like a really daunting task, but apparently they might melt them all.
Yay.
Good. Melt the ice caps.
Melt the ice caps for eternal life. And they're doing it. By great at it.
Yeah.
If you think about it, it's a big fucking challenge. Imagine if someone will really give you that challenge. It's a big challenge. Those are massive amounts of ice. How do you do that? Well, apparently it's not with fires, really. It's about releasing some gases into the air because we need many cars, and we need this agriculture, livestock craziness and all of that. So indirectly, we kind of did it. Let's see about that eternal life.
Oh.
We have two more news that are positive.
Okay, sure. Not gonna pull a fast one on me. The age-old practice of gleaning is feeding people during the pandemic.
What's gleaning, Cody? Is that the Canadian word?
Yes, of generosity, and I have no idea what gleaning means.
I think it's just giving, just sharing food and
gleaning.
It's an old term. Maybe Dan knows because it's in the gift kind of sharing. No, I haven't heard of that.
I've never heard that term. I've got an Irish guy here. Lucas, do you know what gleaning is? No, not even native knowledge.
We went to the roots of English. No?
That's right.
The English, I don't know if the Irish are so proud of that.
It's an interesting news about how in US, because of this COVID situation, governments start to incentivize farmers to give free food to people, like their access. And of course, people are shocked, be like, "What the fuck? There's so much food, so much food coming for free from those farmers." And the farmers are like, "Of course, we always have surplus. We always have surplus. It's just that we are not incentivized to give it to people, because we need to make a business."
Right.
But like good fruits and vegetables, and people in the US start to be like a bit surprised. Oh, can you get this for free? Yeah. It's a good idea. Yeah, it's a good idea. It's a great idea. We should do more of these fucking things. You don't the fucking pandemic.
Yeah,
to be good.
One project that started in about AIDS where a guy basically started to build a little garden bed on his front yard. The neighbors were like, "Oh, what the hell are you doing?" And he apparently was a bit clumsy. I don't know if that's a true story, but that's how I heard it. And so people started helping him. And once he was finished, he was like, "Oh, now there's so many people that were actually involved in growing the food on my front yard, so I'm going to give it away." And he just put a sign saying free food in his front yard. And all his neighbors loved it so much that they basically did the same. So I think the last time I checked, it was like 80 people in that neighborhood, all giving away free food with that scheme where it was not regulated or anything. It was just like a big sign saying free food, take whatever you want. And I think that's great. We're going more towards sustainability and away from big transport, supermarkets, and all that it involves. So yeah, there's some good things happening for sure. Gleaning.
Oh yeah. Gleaning.
It's not surprising when you behave well towards people and help people that these people will probably help others too, or be like, it's a good idea. Of course, you helped me. That's great, But in this society, that's a rare kind of event. You don't quite help people for free. You ask them something. Oh, be nice. Oh, give me money. Oh, do this. Oh, do that. That's why I love these charitable organizations for what they do. They just do things. Just I'm helping you, and that's all. I don't ask you to be any kind of religion or anything. I'm just helping you. So
in Hawaii, they also where I was living on Oahu, they had like this. They started making this like edible footpath. So there's like a little footpath, and there were some plants growing there and stuff, but some people started growing fruit and all kinds of things like that. So anybody can go and take food from there, but of course it's very kind of minuscule.
Yeah, local and
yeah. It's nice too.
And the last positive news.
You have computer-powered citizen science.
Yeah, how people can get involved with all kinds of citizen science projects. I always recommend people to do that. Even I was testing this app. It's called Discover Species with Seek. It uses artificial intelligence, and you can basically with your phone you can identify all kinds of plants and animals and collect that into an open database. That's great. You can get people involved with such things. Unfortunately, it's extremely unpopular today to do any kind of such things. Kids need to watch those YouTube videos, those YouTube vlogs.
It's TikToks,
TikTok,
Tim.
not YouTube.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm quite old-fashioned. I'm sorry about it. That's true. Actually,
What the
I
fuck
just
is YouTube?
yeah. What the fuck is YouTube? I was just I wanted to see what the fuck is with this TikTok these days, and I'm like, I was with Sasha. I was like, we're just like this pros like to all people on desktop. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like millions of views, people just doing that. Like, what the fuck is like? It's even worse. It's like I was telling Sasha, it's almost like back in the days you had videos that lasted longer and they were wider. Today you have videos that last so short and they are so narrow. So it's almost like the field of view and then the content is getting shrink. It's almost it will be to the pinhole at one point. It'll just be like this, just in 1 second long videos, almost 2 frames.
My favorite.
Goes together with the brain shrinking.
That's
yeah.
Everything shrinks.
Everything's funny now.
This crazy TikTok. Well, yeah, let's leave TikTok behind and let's talk about more important stuff.
All right,
let's see. So let's ask Dan, what is, for someone who has no idea about this gift economy, what is gift economy? What do you mean by the gift? What is a gift? And then what do you think of in terms of an economy? How can we describe this to someone who has no idea about the subject?
Well, it's quite an extensive question for the start, but I'll try to split it up as you did. This probably makes a lot of sense. So, first off, the definition of a gift economy is not set in any textbook, or no one prescribed it. Like, sort of, you could say capitalism was prescribed from Karl Marx. So you can get an understanding of how it's supposed to be, not how it really is. But with the gift economy, it's a little bit different because it's not a new invention or anything. It's actually something really old. It's something that has been existing forever and something that still existed all the time. So when you just look into healthy relationships or healthy families, you can see exactly that. People are just sharing. They don't expect anything in return. And this probably would already be the definition in like very short words. You just give without expectation of any reciprocation. So what that entails is also that you get away from maybe donations, you could say, or you get away from barter, which many people misunderstood the gift economy. But if you think about the word in itself, it's a gift. So that wouldn't ask for anything back. If I gift something to you, there's nothing attached to it. It just stays as it is. This is a gift and you can keep it, do whatever you want with it, basically. The more complicated part basically comes when you put that into an economy. And I think it's very extensive, not because it's just an economical system, which seems complicated enough already, but also because it touches all our lives. So and that's what our current capitalist system also does. Like it's not just that we deal with money, but it basically dictates on how we live our lives. We go into buying more things. We try to upgrade our life all the time. Consumerism is kind of imprinted in this idea, and so therefore everything will change. And also is a lot into our economical system, the way we have it right now, and this will also be the same with the gift economy. So whereas most people are very often asking themselves like, okay, why should I help this person, or why should I do this and that for another person, and then they ask themselves a lot about what can I gain from that, what can I get back, which is a pretty egoistic drive, which I wouldn't deem bad at all. But what the gift economy aspect also entails is that we have a very social ego as well. So we get satisfied from social action. So whenever I do something for a random or for any other person, then it's not only what I can get back in material or in money or in like a debt or anything like that. Uh, but most importantly, also, how does it make me feel when I give something, when I give joy or something extra to another person? It makes me feel good because I actually thrive from the social interaction. I get gratitude and I feel the joy that the other person feels as well. So that probably is, in my opinion, one of the biggest differences to the system that we have now. When you go into economical system, then again it's not very defined. You can basically take it as it is, and there's many different approaches to it as well. So there's some people that say like, okay, we still do sort of an exchange, but you only give me what you think is right, and you don't give back for the product or the service that you received, but rather for supporting my lifestyle so I can continue my life and pay my bills and whatever. And then there's other definitions. That's my definition, for example, would be I just give you, and for the joy of giving, and all I expect for you is maybe to increase your life with that joy as well. So maybe just pass it on to another person. It's not regulated or anything. Just maybe do it for the sake of doing something good because it feels really good. I want other people to experience that as well, and therefore create like a better world that is not based on scarcity and reciprocation, but rather on love and kindness and community.
Yeah, one thing I've read through this, one thing that I've read is that, and I felt a bit uncomfortable with when it comes to the gift economy, is like it is expected to be like to create an obligation in a way to not formally but informally, in a way, like I give you a gift and that creates kind of this bond or moral obligation for you to also maybe give back or give to someone else. So I think that's the main thing that I was always uncomfortable when I was reading about the gift economy, this reciprocity in a way. You're saying that you may not, in your view, expect that, but that's what I've read through all kinds of articles and books that will talk about us and lectures. Is this, and some were saying that they kind of rely on this obligation, this moral obligation, in order to create like a bond, like a structure that will make people rely on gifts rather than anything else. What do you say about that?
Well, that is exactly the problem that I was talking about. So, it's the problem that the gift economy in itself is not very defined. It's not that this is a gift economy and this is not. So it's very hard to say like this is the right one, this is the wrong one, or anything. So everyone has to probably make that out for themselves. For me personally, I agree with you. It's not a good thing to expect anything, especially not if it's in direct reciprocation, because the problem with that is that you create sort of this bond between two people, and they have, well, somehow they have an exchange. So I gift something to you, and then I kind of morally expect you to reciprocate, which many people say is natural. That's debatable. I don't know. I feel that it is. Like when you give something to me, I feel like I want to help you too. But all that put aside, the problem is still there, that you have this little separation from everything around you, which actually naturally doesn't exist, because whenever I do something for you, it's built on other people's idea. Or if I give you something materialistic, it's built on a resource that I got from nature. So it's borrowed from somewhere. But still, with these exchanges, we make it to this confined space where only you and me are involved. And that makes it a big problem, because first off, it creates that separation I was talking about from everyone else. And secondly, it doesn't allow it to grow. And that's where I see a benefit, for example, when it's more defined as, you call it a moral obligation. I would rather call it like natural reciprocation, that a gratitude that you feel that you want to give back. And I think there is an opportunity there. There's a huge bonus that you can add to the gift economy when instead of giving back to the same person, you pass it on to another person. And I think here is, again, very important to stress that it shouldn't be an obligation. It shouldn't be expected at all, but it should be rather a recommendation, something that would be nice. And as I said before, I think the importance is not that you say like, oh, I gave to you, so you have to pass it on as well. And if you don't, you're a bad person or anything like that. That shouldn't be the idea. The idea should be like, look, I give to you because I love it. I love you, and like I like humanity. I want to increase people's happiness, and that in turn makes me happy. And maybe you want to try it out as well. And I think that should be the whole motive behind that. And I think then it actually, like we're juggling with words here, but at the same time, they have a certain meaning. It depends on your perspective. And if you change your perspective a little bit away from saying that it's an obligation to rather something where you think like, okay, it's something that I want to try out that actually could benefit myself, then we're on good terms. We're going a good path towards a better future for everyone's happiness, and many more things that we can talk about later too.
Is this Session?
No, I was just gonna say I always kind of like to relate these kind of things to couch surfing. Couch surfing, the actual not the website. We discussed that before, but the actual,
The practice of
idea
couch surfing.
the actual practice of couch surfing, where you offer somebody a couch for free, and it's very, very obvious that if that couch isn't actually completely free, in that you're looking for something, you're asking for money, or you ask for sex, or you ask for to do some work or to bring something specific or whatever, or to whatever you ask for anything, then it's not the real couch surfing, and it's not how it should be, the true, trade free. And that I can also relate it to these different concepts of the gift economy, in where, if you feel this kind of moral obligation to that you have to give something back, then it would be like, okay, I come surf at someone's house, I stay at someone's house for free, and then I feel like, okay, because of that, I need to host. And I think that couch surfing shouldn't be like that, and it shouldn't be like that, because I think that would make it that would cause some problems, if every time you surfed, then you have to host. So you host twice, and you have to surf, then you can only surf twice. I think it's not good to make these kind of forced obligations. But if you go and and practice and couch, you feel that was so nice and so great, and because of that, you might want to host anyway. And that's what I see a lot in the community. But it shouldn't be like an obligation.
Yeah.
Exactly, that's the point. Otherwise, you would have to call it Airbnb delayed payments.
Yeah. Or IOU kind of.
Yeah. Someone is asking, like, why do you not call it then sharing? You have to call it a gift economy, not just simply say, okay, we just share stuff, and then we don't make any big thing out of it and don't call it a gift economy, but just like we just share stuff.
I think the problem with that word is it's already taken. many people actually put Airbnb and car sharing, all these companies like Uber and stuff. They say this is a sharing economy because it's derived from that idea that Uber is not a big company that puts taxi drivers out of work, but rather that idea that you already have a car, and while it's not used, or while you go from A to B, you might just put it on Uber, and you might pick up some people on the ride and get some money with that too. But that's the idea, that you share something that you already have, and they kind of made this the sharing economy. But yeah, you basically, you could call the gift economy also a sharing economy. That is again the problem, that it's not very well defined or anything. Maybe one of us has to write a book about the gift economy and say like, this is it.
I think the word gift is also, I'm coming from a culture where gifts are something that are really annoying me, because they are just associated with holidays, and it's so obligatory. You always feel obligated to give gifts to people's birthdays, to like I don't know, from Santa Claus to whatever holidays, and it's always like a stressful situation. You have to give, I have to give again, I have to give you a gift, right? So of course, all of the words are trapped inside cultures, and how we see them. So for me, first time that I've heard about this gift economy, I was like, oh my God, no, because I fucking hate that. Like, I don't want to give gifts to anyone. Like, I'm just doing stuff, and whoever wants to take it, take it. But I don't just, almost like I have to do it specifically. I give to you, like, take it, right? Well, the way that I'm doing things is like, I'm just doing things, and I'm putting it there on a shelf. If someone wants it, take it. If you don't, I don't care, right? That's kind of my attitude. So of course you need more context to see what you mean by gift economy, or you mean by gift economy, and so forth. But I will agree that it's much better to think of the gift economy in the sense of just giving stuff to people without expecting anything in return, or you don't just give to them because it's this holiday or whatever. You give because you want to help them, you want to be nice with them and stuff like that. So it needs to be a differentiation. In this, you need more context. Because it depends what you read. If you read the Wikipedia about the gift economy, you'll see all kinds of ideas there of this reciprocity. If you see all kinds of lectures, I think it's this guy. I think you also maybe talked about him. What's this guy's name, Sasha? Because I don't know.
Charles Eisen.
Yeah. I think he also started to promote a new kind of idea about the gift economy. Now, what is he promoting? Do you know him? Are you familiar with him?
That's the thing. He also doesn't have like a singular approach where he says like, this exactly is the gift economy and this is what we have to do. So you need to know he's an anthropologist, and he just saw how society used to work before we entered the trade evolution, you could say. And he takes that as an example and tries to put it in our modern society, where it's very difficult to say like, okay, how would we live in a gift economy if I still want to have my iPhone or my Google phone or whatever, because that person that produces that phone will be far, far away, and we'll never see each other, so why would he give me a gift? So he comes up with different ideas that he proposes, but he doesn't specifically say like, oh, only this is it. So one of these ideas, for example, would be a negative interest, where you could say that when you have money on the bank, you will lose money. So the longer you keep your money, the faster it will lose value for you. So you're inclined to use that money and to put it in circulation, and that way we would get away from accumulation, because if you had lots of money on the bank, it would be a bad thing for you because you constantly would lose out. So you're inclined and taking action towards sharing your wealth. That is one of his ideas, but there's many more in his books that you can find out. But yeah, again, it's not a very singular approach. But for me, like I already explained my point, and I think this is very important to lead it in that direction, because I see many advantages of that. And as you said before as well, with the gift, the word gift is often a little problem, because in today's society, it's not only that we are stressed because we have to gift to come up with a gift for Christmas or something, but we're also expected to give back, and that shouldn't be the idea of a gift.
And to receive.
Yeah, and to receive, like, it's, you know, like when you invite me to your birthday, then I feel like I have to invite you to my birthday next year as well. And that's not how it should be. But yeah, this is what I meant. The economy indoctrinates our lives so much with this idea of dealing, of trading all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because in a sense, we want to say something that's similar. We want to say that, but they didn't want to just take any of these ideas that have a lot of baggage, like the gift economy or the sharing economy that also transformed and so forth. And my approach was more like the opposite way. I was like, look, this trade-based society creates really bad incentive for people. And I showcased why and how, in this big The Origin of Most Problems book. And I said one approach could be to create trade-free goods and services, but that's just one approach. My focus is always on the problem. And now when I'm thinking about this gift economy, you're talking a bit about scaling it. How could that be scaled and keep this essence of a gift economy when we live in a world where people have to mass produce food and clothes and everything else? Because as I understand, this gift economy relies on community bonds and the fact that maybe we know each other and we give like personal gifts and help each other, and that's where the value kind of is. But when you scale it up and it's a worldwide society and you have to produce millions, billions of items, how is that going to? How do you see this gift economy idea or this gifting idea working inside such a big global society, though?
That's a very good question I get very often, because we live in this idea that the world as it is functioning, and there is no other way. Because if I wouldn't pay my doctor, how would he treat me? How would he pay for, all the materials and the machines that he needs to treat me? And yeah, so many things involved. But what I think is that there is another way. We just think it's so impossible because we haven't lived it there. But I think about 20 years, nobody would have thought that we communicate through this little tiny phone in perfect quality as if you were almost here. Nobody would have thought that we're flying rockets to Mars and try to build a new civilization there and things like that. It always seems impossible until it's done. That's what Nelson Mandela said. And I think this is very true for anything that you try that is out of the box, that is a little bit different. And in this case, I think what we should focus on most is not the outcome, but the path to that outcome that is probably undefined yet. So what I try to emphasize most of the time is that what I propose is a transition. It's a transitional move. It's not something where I say like, oh, throw all your money away and all your possessions and live in a cave and never touch money again, because it doesn't make any sense and you wouldn't reach anyone either. So I rather say like, if you have some spare minutes or some spare money or some spare power that you can use to make someone else happy and to share what you have, your skills, your equipment or whatever, then do it. And don't ask for anything in return. And then you will see that it will transform things, because all of a sudden you will see that you will also receive things from others because they think about you as a good person. And that other person will also be impacted in their whole life as well. And so therefore, many things will change. And I think we will realize that a lot of things that we are producing these days in that globalized world aren't really necessary. We don't necessarily need to fly to all kinds of countries 10 times a year. We don't necessarily need the newest phone and computer, and we don't necessarily need to have mangoes at any time of the year wherever you live. Um, and and they're like, again, I'm not saying like we need to abolish all this right now, but I think, oh no, I know because I experienced that once people realize that giving is much more fulfilling than becoming or getting than taking, then they will also realize that what we really need is community, is love and kindness, instead of things and possessions and accumulation. And then, therefore, I think a lot of things will just fall out of the box. And what then will happen, I can't really tell. This is probably up to everyone's imagination. What will happen in the very far future with the gift economy? But I definitely think it's possible because we used to live like that before, and we just veered off that into that weird path where we thought that we need to accumulate as many things as possible in order to have safety. So many people, they try to, buy things or save up money in their bank account in order to feel safe. I'd rather say I invest in people because that's the best investment you can have. Uh, when I'm a likable person and I'm in need, I will definitely find some people that will help me. And that's probably the way to go for the future, because as we're experiencing right now during this Corona times, is that money might go into a hyperinflation, or the economy might crash completely. We all might lose our possessions or at least our money. So having people in your bank account is probably more valuable than anything else. And with that, the future is open to anything that could happen. Yeah, but I'm not really answering your question here, as you can see. But this is just because it's an impossible question. It's like, oh, how do you think the future will look like? It's very difficult to say.
Then let me make it a bit more. Would you consider, for example, big volunteer groups like from Wikipedia to open source to Doctors Without Borders or others alike? Would you consider these people being engaged in this gift economy through what they're doing?
Partly, yes. Again, I say partly because, again, the gift economy is not very defined. So some people would say definitely yes. I would say maybe. I see it as a transition. So these other definitions of a gift economy that is differing from my personal definition, I see as a positive step already. So it's also going in the right direction. It's maybe not like, fully there in exactly the same direction. It's not going straight, but it's like going in the same direction, roughly. And therefore, we're having like a positive impact already, because Wikipedia in itself is not relying on advertisements or, you know, big sponsorships from people that will impact their credibility or the way they publish or anything. So that's a positive step, because we already moved away from this need of having to be financially secured. But I think they could surely do better.
Aren't these groups in a way?
Theo, now you're quite quiet.
Oh, hold on. Now I'm too quiet. Now I'm better.
Yeah.
It's better. Yeah. Okay. Aren't these organizations? Yeah. Now, Sasha.
Theo, you just set it at whatever, and I'm controlling your output.
Okay, control my output.
Controlling your output. Okay, you're good. Go ahead.
My output is yours.
Oh yes.
I wanted to say, aren't those organizations more like a gift? The gift idea on the industrialized scale, maybe scaling up this idea of gifting. I give to you, I help you, but en masse. Like Doctors Without Borders have to take care of 10 plus million patients. Wikipedia has to serve content to a few billion humans. So probably why would this not be considered, for example, like an ideal way to give to people, like a gifting on a mass scale?
I didn't really understand what you mean. So why would what exactly not be considered a gift?
You said that these organizations are partially there. Why partially and not fully?
Oh well, because they're still uh, based on donations. But that's probably the fairest you can go, you know, because as you say, they have to serve, I don't know how many million or billion people, and make their access possible. So somehow they have to pay for the service yet. Uh, I think the better approach for this kind would be, diverting the costs onto people that have money, and this is basically what they do with the donations. So they're definitely going in the right direction, but there's also um, some hurdles, because if the donations stay out, then, well, what can they do? So what you can see constantly on Wikipedia, for example, is that you have they're begging basically for donations, and without that, it wouldn't be possible. So therefore, yeah.
But if I, for example, provide a gift to you, some fruits or some vegetables, because I care about you in our community, yet I stay in my mom's house, and my mom pays for whatever is there, and because of her, I'm able to grow these things. It's still a gift, right? I rely on her like I will rely all the time on other people. So
Yeah.
why would donations, for example, which are voluntary, they don't give anything in return if you donate to them. That's why it's called a donation. It's a volunteer gift, basically. Others just give to them because they gift to the world, but most people who use the service don't gift back. Only 1% of people who read Wikipedia probably donate. So in that regards, why would donations, for example, kind of ruin a bit this gift process, the process of gifting,
Well, I probably need to row back a little bit thinking about it. So they, as I said, like, they're very close to a gift economy already. The problem that I see with donations is probably not the most obvious for Wikipedia as an example. What I see as a problem, though, in like person-to-person dealings, like if you take Wikipedia as an example for other operations that you want to start, for example, then it is based on begging, you can say. So it's a little bit like, look, I offer you free information. Would you be so nice to donate? And there's nothing wrong with that, but the problem arises when people feel the obligation, and this is just what we discussed earlier in reverse. If you feel the obligation that you have to give back because you receive, then I see, in my personal view, that it's not a pure gift economy anymore. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's just that for one, of course, it's very difficult to do it in any ways in this society, and I feel like this is the most pure kind of way, because you get away from obligations. Actually, you say you donate, whoever wants donates, but you don't get anything back. You don't get anything more than other people. We also, for example, ask for donations for our project. Everything is free, but whoever donates doesn't get anything back. And most people who use our stuff, they don't donate. So they don't feel that obligation in any way to donate. I've been in this open source world for a bit now, and I know that too. In open source, no one really feels obligated to donate to the open source projects, but a few people who can donate, will donate money. So I think it's not an ideal situation, of course, because you always rely on people donating, and if they don't donate, you're fucked in a way, because you cannot pay for those servers, you cannot pay for whatever. But it's I don't know what solution you can come with in this society. So that's, to me, is maybe the best that we can do for now. And then who knows, maybe Wikipedia will have maybe the people working for Wikipedia, not working but being volunteers, let's say, and writing articles, maybe they will use more like solar panels, or they get free food from other organizations, so forth. Like I described in one TROM-Cast, I see this our idea with trade free, meaning you make a trade free good and service here, you make a trade free good and service there, say healthcare, say food, say accommodation, and like they're like chains, like it creates a chain. It's a link that will create, more and more, whatever you put there, it's like one part of the chain. You don't have to like create the entire chain. But if you create here and there, like I was giving an example because I don't have to pay here in Spain for healthcare. If I will be in US, I will get ruined. The fact that I don't have to pay for healthcare allows me to have more time to do my stuff here, to create books and so forth. Else I'll have to get a job to pay thousands probably of dollars for my healthcare, right? So if you create these little things here and there, maybe yes, you can move away from donations entirely. But I think it's a necessary. I don't even call it evil, but it's a necessary thing that they have to do, and I don't think it creates that much of a like an obligation. If I use Wikipedia, people won't probably want to donate, most people, and so forth. Yeah, that's my input.
Yeah, I would say, of course, it also depends on the situation, because if it's something like an online service or kind of a mass, like a lot of trade-free services, maybe it doesn't make someone feel guilty. I feel like if it doesn't make you feel guilty, like should I donate, should I not, you should just be like, okay, so I want to donate, here's the opportunity, you can. But if it's like, say, somebody gives you a massage and they tell you it's a free massage, and then afterwards they're like, if you would like, I'm really broke and I really need money, and if you'd like to donate, you don't have to, but maybe if you would like to, and I could bring it back to the couch surfing example. It would be like, hosting someone at your place, saying that it's free, but then being like, well, you can donate to me if you would like to, because I make them feel guilty into like kind of forcing this donation. Then I wouldn't even call it a donation. I would just call it a kind of sneaky way of trying to get money from people, And if it's like kind of forced, then yeah, it's not even a donation. I mean,
exactly. Yeah.
So it depends. Then I think, yeah.
I agree 100%. I think that is exactly the reason for our, well, not opposing views, but just different perspectives that we're having, because your perspective is partly coming from, this open source software where you anonymously reach people, and you're not being face to face with them, so you don't really know who's downloading your software or using your software, and you're just putting the word donation out into the world instead of talking to people directly. And my approach is a bit different, where I face people on a daily basis, and if I would ask for donations, I can just feel what you just said, Sasha. It's that you might get into this trap where you might end up being in a trade again. One example I have for this is that I met quite a few yoga teachers. I teach yoga myself, and they also been offering their yoga lessons on donation basis, they called it. But that is exactly the problem, because at some point I also read about some people saying like, oh yeah, the minimum donation would be $10.
Then it's not a donation.
Subscription.
Yeah. And this is why I have that that kind of perspective on this topic. But yeah, I actually agree to you 100%. If anonymous, non-obligatory donations, non-mandatory donations are possible, then it's probably the way to go. Because everything, like what you're doing is basically you're taking money that is already there, and you transform it into something that's free. That is wonderful. This is exactly, that's what I would be saying is like straightforward. This is exactly where we want to go to create a better world. Yeah.
I would say with the yoga class, I would say like if the yoga teacher is saying, minimum $10 donation or whatever, or going up to every student being like, donation please, donation please, donation please, then that's not donation based, but if they do the class and they say, if you want, you can donate, and they put like a jar or something somewhere in the corner of the room or whatever in the front of the class or wherever, and they just put an optional jar there and anyone can donate what they want, then that's more of what I see as okay, a donation based. It's more of along the lines of trade free.
Yeah, there's surely different layers, different depths to it, where it's hard to really agree. When it comes to yoga, the way I gotten to know yoga is that it came from Buddhists. Like if you go really far back, the Buddhists have this idea of being of service in their life. This is why they think that humans are on this planet to be of service for someone else. So everything they would do, like if you go to a Vipassana, which is the Buddhist meditation, they would never ever say like, oh, this is donation based or anything. It would be free from the very start. They would try to get away from money as good as possible. At the same time, they're also beggars. This is true as well. So you can see there's no straight line with this, of course. But it's just from my experience, I have that maybe a little bit of anxiety that this donation-based idea becomes an obligation, and then moving back to a system that actually I am trying to avoid or to change to the better. There's this risk there. This is why I try to stay away from donations as good as possible. But in larger scale projects, of course, this would hardly be possible. So yeah, I think with the gift economy also being not so well defined, it's also a good thing because it allows for different needs.
My thinking was when I moved away a bit from TVP and there, because the thinking was more like, oh, let's build a new society, Then I've read about all kinds of groups and ideas and ideals for the past hundreds of years, and people had all kinds of, let's make people want to behave this way or behave that way. They have all kinds of plans. We have to make people nice to each other. We need to promote love and happiness, and more like localized production, this and that. And what I kind of reached the conclusion is that you shouldn't interfere much. That's my view. We shouldn't interfere much with people's lives. Like, you just leave them alone, and whatever they want to consider as being important, it's important. But what I've seen that it kind of works is with, like, just offer them free things. Like if you offer them, if you have access to a free healthcare, for example, or some free food or some free accommodation, they are more relaxed in this life because they don't have to trade their life for those things. So the more they have, the more free time they have, and the more of such goods and services that are trade free, the more honest they are, the more of the good quality, and I explain that in detail in that original Most Promised book. So my standpoint is more from a more a neutral kind of standpoint. Like, I don't want to have like a great purpose there and tell people maybe like we should be good to each other, right? I would rather not tell people to be good to each other. I would rather make an environment where this behavior emerges. That's my approach. And I'm probably this is the difference here between us when it came to for example, donations, because you think more on this personal level, like you said. I always have this mentality of thinking of this global scale, of this mass producing things, and taking care of like billions of people at once, because in today's world, we are so globalized that there are massive amounts of stuff, if digital or physical stuff, coming in and coming out. Yes, it's mostly based on this consumption craziness because of this trade-based society. But I think it's also, you need that. You need this mass producing things, from online platforms to like producing food. I doubt that food could be produced locally for billions of people, maybe in parts, but you still probably will rely on mass transportation and so forth. So my idea was, in the end, healthcare system, for example, that's a big one, because you need research across the world, So I'm thinking more in this kind of big systems of healthcare system or food systems or whatever that could provide for billions of people. And when you think in that regards, it's hard to impose or think about, their morals there, their judgments, should they rely on donations or not? And I said, okay, let's stop it. What if we regard these goods and services between the good and service and the human being? So as long as they're trade-free, as long as you don't ask anything in return, I don't care how you do it. I don't care if you rely on donations. I don't care if you are a company. I don't care if you're a government. I don't care if you beg for donations. As long as I am not forced to give you anything in return, that should be a great good and service, a purely free good and service. So that would be my approach. And I felt a bit when I was reading about the gift economy that is maybe not from your side, but maybe from like general understanding, that is more of they try to put more a purpose there to maybe tell people how we should do things, instead of letting that emerge out of. I'm not sure if I'm wrong about that, but that's how I kind of felt. For me, it's like I'm so obsessed with like not telling people. Don't tell people what to do. Just don't. Be good to each other. Let's be nice. Let's treat each other nicely. I would rather see this emerging from an environment. I think that's more powerful because it sticks to that. I've seen a bunch of communities that failed. Kibbutz partially, but others that were also bigger had all kinds of ideas in their minds. Let's grow locally. Is this documentary that we just posted on video, and it is called a country for how is that called?
The one about the
in the US, Osho.
Oh yeah.
It's a crazy documentary, but they had this kind of ideals of creating a community there. They had lots of resources. I don't know how the fuck they got so many resources, but quite a lot of power. They kind of own the city, entire city, maybe thousands of people, and they try to kind of coalesce a bunch of ideas into a community. We should be this towards each other. We should share. They were obsessed with the sharing. We should share towards each other. We should do this and we should do that. And it failed. And that's not the only example.
No, Theo. They shared the Kool-Aid together. What are you talking about?
Wild Country. That's what it's
Wild Country, yeah. Videoing.com.
I can send that link in the chat.
Yeah, but I feel like the reason that they failed is that they didn't understand kind of what's the problem that they try to get away from. They try to create an ideal world, how we should treat each other. So it shouldn't be how we should treat each other. It should be create an environment that such a behavior emerges from. And that way, it's almost like a soil. You don't force the growth of some plants in a soil. You make sure that the soil is proper to grow those plants. Else you just force that plant and it's just not going to last for that long, So yeah, that's what I wanted to say about my approach that seemed more neutral to me versus people who have more of a view how society should be. I don't want to say this is how society should be. I'm saying this is what's wrong with this society. So maybe we should step away from it. And I want to make the last point, and I'm going to ask you about this, Dan, because I focus on the problem, right? I came to this conclusion that we need to focus on the problem if you want to solve it. You shouldn't focus on solutions. To me, when people who focus on solutions are more like shamans of today's world. You ask them, but what's the problem? They say, don't worry. The problem is there are many problems. We just want to heal you. How do you want to heal me? Well, drink this. I'll give you a massage. I'll give you this plant. I give you this holistic kind of approach to health. But that's not how medicine works. Doctors ask, what is cancer? Doctors ask, what is Alzheimer? They focus on the problem. And focusing on the problem will come up with solutions, multiple of them. So do you think this could be erroneous, to focus on the problem? Like I feel like we have to focus on the problem. And if you think it's important to focus on the problem, what's the problem that the gift economy tries to solve? Because this doesn't come from nowhere, this gift idea. It comes from somewhere. Why is this gift economy even discussed? Why don't we just accept today's world? What's so wrong with this world? So is this emerging from a problem? And you think that's important?
Oh, wow. Um, how many hours? um, yeah, well, the one thing that keeps coming to mind when you say this problem and this solution thing is actually permaculture. This is how I got introduced to the gift economy too. So I'll give you a little bit of introduction to permaculture in case you don't know it, or at least some other people listening might not know it. It's an idea of two Australian guys that are studying biology. Or one of them was a professor, the other one was a student, and the student was writing his thesis, and he came up with this idea of permaculture, which actually looks at the problem that we have in the world that might lead to extinction, to human extinction. And he boiled it basically down to water loss, soil degradation, and therefore we would either starve or have no water to drink anymore at some point in the future if we continue the way we live right now. So they looked into indigenous tribes actually, and how they managed because they lived on this planet for thousands of years without going extinct. And they took these solutions and put it all together. But when they and the biggest part of that is actually farming and agriculture. So they have huge incentives to change that around to make it more sustainable and healthy for the people. But when they were doing this, they also noticed that what was very common in these indigenous tribes too, that it doesn't just work by saying like, okay, this is the blueprint. You have to do it exactly like this, and put this plant there and this plant there and so on. That wouldn't be sufficient. They found out that people are actually a huge driver for this. So we need to take care of the people. And when they figured out that, when they thought about how can we take care of the people, they realized that we have to share. So the three main principles of permaculture is earth care, and then people care, and then fair share. And so that was my transition then from into the gift economy. But the reason why I'm mentioning this now, this permaculture idea, is also because one of their methods they have, well, at least when they designed it, was that they had 12 main methods, and one of them is basically the problem is the solution. So in that term, it doesn't really matter if you focus on the problem or on the solution, because it's often very much the same. It's ingrained. If you really solve it, not just postpone it or fight the symptoms, then the solution will be almost the same as the problem. It's a little bit like if you want to grow food really sustainable, you can't just take the same acre and do it a little bit differently, but you have to change everything around. So the problem is not the acre or the way you farm, but it's also how you deal with people, how that capitalist system works, and what your dependencies are, and so on and so on. So they looked at this very holistically, and this is also how I approach this within the gift economy. So when you mentioned, for example, that Western medicine is looking at the problem, say like, oh, this is cancer, this is what we can do, then I only partially agree, because what they see is a symptom. They see, oh, this person has cancer, okay, let's put some, have like an operation and remove the tumor, or maybe put them in chemotherapy, and then that's all we can do. And a shaman, actually, as you described it, for the opposite, yeah, they would probably say like, okay, do this and do that. And the reason for that being is that they see your problem, of course, as well, but they don't dig so much into the problem, because they see that the problem is just a symptom very often. So they go deeper, they see the whole thing holistically, because when you have cancer, it's not just because you smoked, but the reason for that is actually that you smoke because you're so stressed out by your wife who beats you every night, or I don't know, whatever the reason is, you know. So you need to dig deeper and go to the root of the problem, and this is where I totally agree with you. Actually, when we need to, or when we want to approach this situation that we're in, let's call it a situation, not a problem, then we got to look at why are we here? Why do we these things that we do? Did we create capitalism? Why did we go into war? Why do we degrade soils? Why do we chop down forests and let them burn? And I could go on forever. So there's a huge array of problems. But my approach, just as yours, is basically to go way deeper and say, like, okay, what is the actual problem? And the problem very often is how we deal with each other, how our community is dysfunctional, and how our society works. And right there, it becomes a very spiritual thing all of a sudden. And from that spiritual perspective, I think that the idea of the gift economy is superb. This is what could solve all the problems. And I would actually not differentiate trade free from the gift economy. In my eyes, it's exactly the same. The importance, and this is where I agree the very most with you, is that we don't have a system that is from the top down, but rather from the bottom up. So there's no political system that tells you like, oh, you should, or you need, or you have to, or whatever, which makes it enforced, and therefore makes you sort of a slave of these rules. But instead say like, okay, we start at the bottom with yourself and with the people that are around you maybe, or the things that you like doing, and see what benefits they have for you, and create a happy and positive life, which sharing, in my eyes, definitely does. And once people realize what power that has, what benefit there is in the gift economy, and in giving and sharing and community and loving and kindness, they enrich their own lives, and they don't do it because they should, or because they have that huge target where they say like, oh, we need to have so and so much CO2 emissions, or we need to get away from plastic or whatever. But rather where they say like, oh, I want to, it's fun, like my consciousness is way better when I share, and when I get away from eating meat, or food that has been shipped 3 times around the planet and things like that. Not because they have to, but because they want to. And again, this is my personal approach, is where I say like, sharing is so much fun, just do it, try it, and it will improve your own life. It's very egocentric, you could say, but at the same time it creates something way bigger that can then slowly scale up. And it probably doesn't matter if you take an approach that is like saying, okay, I just produce for the masses and then see what happens, or if you say like, I just am really nice to the people around me. In the end, it's all the same, as long as it's voluntary. This is probably the most important step, that you say like, I want to, not I have to. I don't feel obliged, and nobody dictated it on me, but I really want to create this world. And then we can actually move forward as a unit, because that I see as the biggest problem in our world. Speaking of problems, that is separation. And from separation, every other problem in this world derives. If it's war, CO2, plastic, pollution, slavery, beat it. Like, every problem goes back to that one thing. It's separation. That's my
What do you mean by
thing.
what do you mean by separation?
The separation that we have, saying like, I am different from you, and you live your life and I live my life, and I don't care if you die or if you have a miserable life, as long as I'm happy. This would be the separation. Or a really good example would be maybe a tribe. Again, if you go back in time, or the tribes that still exist, they see themselves as a unit. So if someone was doing something wrong, they wouldn't say like, oh, you expelled now and we hate you or anything. They figured that their community wasn't apparently working properly, because otherwise this person wouldn't have stolen things, or beat or raped someone, or something like that. That was because their community is dysfunctional. So what they do is they get together and they take that person and they tell them how much they love him and how many positive characteristics this person has. And they try to fix the problem of separation. They say like, we are one, because if we expel you and we lose you, then we're not complete anymore. We are one unit, and that's how we need to act, instead of separating and saying like, you are a bad person and you did wrong, now go away. They see every problem that happens with one person is based on the problems that the people around this person have.
But shouldn't it look like, if in a society someone does something bad or whatever, why they did something bad, instead of trying to like encourage this human being that you should do good from now on? Because there are many groups out there. I'm from Romania, I'm from a city, I'm from a family. Even in these structures, it's always going to be a lot of persons that will benefit from others. They will cheat and they will lie and they will do all kinds of bad things, even though they are part of a group and it's the same identity. Christians, Muslims, you will see corruption there, and you'll see lies, despite their communities should be despite their communities projecting the same identity for all of their members. So I would say the fact that we feel like we are the same, to feel like we are the same human beings, and we are one species or one community, maybe, is great, but it does very little when those people have to struggle for survival, or it's a competition there. Like I played this board Monopoly game with my friends, my closest friends. Every time we played that game, we got so angry at each other, and so we divided ourselves so much, despite being so close friends. That environment made us into charlatans and abusers and thieves. So to me, the core problem is when we have to trade. We have to like engage into this. I do this because I want that from you. And that overrides all of our beliefs, all of our. It has very little impact when you put laws, when you put all kinds of like, oh, we are the same, we shouldn't cheat each other, kind of things like that. And before you reply to that, I want also to mention, because you said many things there, that I am yet to see shamans solving any problems when it comes to cancer or other things. I agree with you that health professionals and experts should look deeper into what the problem is. Cancer, of course, is not just you smoking, but why you are smoking. Actually, serious institutions like from Cancer Research UK and others are actually saying that because of our environmental stress and so forth, people may smoke more, people may eat more or eat more junk food and so forth. And that's why, even they say the biggest treatment for cancer is prevention to not smoke, prevention to not. But anyways, when you keep the problem into focus, probably you come up with solutions. Maybe not today, but maybe tomorrow, people will. Because today, even when it comes to cancer, yes, it's like you're saying, they try to like use chemotherapy, they try to like do a surgery, but there are more and more ideas now that are dealing in long-term solutions, like let's use the immune system, to have an immunity to cancer. So that's what I'm hoping from this when it comes to our society. Maybe we don't have the solution today, but maybe in the future, if we keep on saying like, look, this trade-based society that makes us make so much shit, that's useless shit and waste, and behave so badly with each other, it's a problem that creates bad behaviors. Maybe focusing on that in the future, people will create a different kind of society, name it gift economy or sharing economy or trade-free and so forth. As long as you know the problem that creates most of today's problems, as long as you know that and you agree on that and you study it, then I think you can come up with solutions. So when you say that separation is the core of most problems, I will also say that maybe trade is the core of most problems. So maybe this is either these people are great. It's a bit hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from if I can say something, I mean, I would think that I feel like this kind of separation, this idea of separation, often is a result of people having to trade to survive on this planet. You know, people having to go to work to these shitty jobs that they hate. You know, and because of that, they have to basically trade for everything to survive, and then constantly being bombarded. You know, with companies trying to get their attention, selling them stuff. You know, it's. I feel like it's this entire environment where someone is always trying to sell you something, or you have to trade in order to get the other stuff that you need to survive. I think that causes all kinds of problems.
Don't forget about nationalism, for example. Say, if I take Romania, the politicians are one of the richest people. I think even richer than priests. God bless that, but I don't know if they are richer than a priest, but kind of on the same level. So they are rich, okay? They want to keep being rich, and they have all kinds of illegal businesses here and there, and they want to be elected, right? And whenever they want to be elected, they many times use the nationalistic aspect, and this nationalistic aspect, like, oh, we're Romanians, whatever, it separates us from the rest of Europe, for the rest of the world, right? Because it's just us Romanians, right? So it creates this separation if people use nationalism. The best example is US. Recently, for the past years, when there's like this Trump guy is like, oh, America first, us Americans, separating us from other people, as if America, just America living on this planet. If China pollutes, America is also going to, like, where is the virus coming from, right? Oh, let's blame China. Well, of course, if we were to see ourselves probably as one and don't have to like engage into this trade war that they engage into, probably then we can address those problems differently. But I feel like the separation, I also feel it's mostly due to our structure of our society, where we are obsessed, forced to trade all of our lives. There's no space for anything else, basically,
Cute dog.
Yeah, he wants to have a say as well.
See this.
About being one.
That's right.
Being the
Being-
same.
Yeah.
So yeah, what do you think? Like, what do you think causes this separation?
Yeah, that's a good question. But I would rather turn it around instead, actually. So when you say the trade, for example, causes the separation, I agree, but I would rather say it perpetuates it. I think that the separation has been there before, and then because if you're not separated, if you don't think that you are very different from me, or like something away from me, something very external, then why would I trade? Why would I have to trade in the first place? I think that it just happened because of separation, because we said like, oh, if you don't do good to me, then I do nothing for you, and this is where where the trade starts. So I think that the separation has been there before, because we just separated from our spirits, you could say, if you want to take a spiritual approach, or the like. And then trade comes in, or nationalism comes in, or racism, or religion, or so many other things, and it takes that separation and it perpetuates it and divides us even more so. This is what probably is the big problem, and also what is the solution, as I said earlier. So if we stop trading, we will come back together again. We will have this this beautiful solution for that core problem of all the other problems that we are having.
Probably if you look at families, and let's say take a case scenario called divorce, people splitting each other, like it's a unity there called the family, and then they split apart. Probably if you look, I don't know, so I cannot claim that, but from what I've heard, no, divorce happens a lot because people have to trade all of their lives in separate ways. They trade their energy and life to this job, their energy and life to the other job. They stay separated most of the time. They don't know much about the world because they don't have time to do so. They cannot grow a relationship. You might look at the COVID situation. People were forced to stay with each other again, and they were quite like violence rising in it's a few tribes and so forth. Like why would that be? They should be a unity. They should be connected. But because of this crazy world, because imagine this, in today's society, a family is like, it's not even a family in that regards, because the father goes to work at 6 a.m., mother goes to work at 6 a.m., kids go to school or to kindergarten. They stay more separated than with each other most of the time, right? So I think this structure of our trade-based society separates these units of family, even greater probably the units of countries and entire communities of people, because it forces you to engage into this. You have no other choice. You may want to spend time with your kid, but can you? You kind of, very few people can do that. So in that regards, I feel like, okay, we can debate what precedes what, but I see evidence of this trade-based society really splitting apart connections between people. And that's not to mention the online craziness, the Facebooks and the whatever TikToks who separate people into bubbles for the sake of views and whatever likes. Like the mom will see some content, dad will see some content, or they will reinforce that because they stay more on the platform. And maybe dad is a so-called Republican and mom is so-called Democrat, whatever, and that makes their views different just because Facebook wants to keep them on their platform, not to feed them relevant content, but just to keep them on their platform. And kids, what do the kids do? The kids have their heads into other kinds of like, from makeup tutorials to like crazy vlogs or whatever. Hey, TikTok, let's do TikTok, and person, what the fuck is TikTok? So it creates a difference between these human beings. They cannot see each other as the same. That's what I'm trying to say. Because of what they are exposed to in society. It's almost like the society wants the individual of us, to value the individual of us. Those kids are great for views. Those papa is good to buy cars. Mama is good to buy groceries, right? So we are consumers on different levels, pushed apart, and that's probably what splits us apart. That's one example of what splits us apart, right? I feel like, of course, yeah. You can put religion there too. That is this craziness. You can put other things like, this craziness of gender. So gender argue, I'm gay, I'm not gay, I'm this, I'm that. We are all humans. But even these notions of gender identity and so forth can be very much pushed by. Let me give you an example, like a concrete example. I'm creating this TROM-2 documentary, and I've been studying human sexuality. I want to see, is sexuality coming from the environment? Is coming from genes, from the brain? What I realized, and I'm not going to say what the answer is, but what I realized is that people make so-called scientific articles for the sake of getting grants, or for the sake of based on very little science, and they promote all kinds of things. Yeah, sure, people are born being whatever, or so they are influenced by this trade-based society to create really shitty science, right? And this shitty science is taken by shitty media that is putting all kinds of, we discovered the gauge, and you are this, or you are that, or we are not this, or we are not that, and black people are different from white people, right? So then perpetuate this kind of titles, bullshit titles, and then it's almost like you're vomiting, you're eating that, and you vomit it again because now Facebook or other platforms take the same shitty content and regurgitate, right? So it's this shittiness, this chain of shittiness that happens in our society that changes our minds, what we see about ourselves, what we think we are. Like, look in the US, people who are like the white race, the people who are like the KKK or whatever, they're against black people. It perpetuates these kinds of states, our society, because of views, because of what clicks, So I feel like if you really look deeper into our society, you will find these influences. They're not bad people doing these things on purpose. They just have an incentive. Facebook has an incentive for views. Researchers have an incentive for grants, right? People have an incentive to buy shit because they just go to work and get the salary. And what can they do with the salary? That's the purpose of their lives. So that's what I wanted to say. If you look deeper, I feel like you see this trade-based society really pushing us into bubbles, separated bubbles, and taking advantage of that, mining us in a way, right? So I agree with you. Separation is really, really bad. I would say maybe if you create a society where trade is kind of obsolete, and we have more, like you may say in the gift sense, more access to free goods, trade free goods and services, more free time, maybe that will unite people, and maybe will make us realize that we are more of the same and take care of ourselves, for fuck's sakes. Do we really need, these natural disasters? Have you noticed that every time there is natural disaster, somehow people are like, oh, we are humans, let's help each other, right? They behave more like humans. Yeah, we should have that kind of thing. We have many natural disasters today. We're just not recognized, like climate change or so that's what I wanted to say. Separation, trade. I feel like probably this tribal society separates us. Maybe it's not the entire cause of it, but I think you can find many examples where that's the case.
Perpetuation.
Perpetuation, exactly. And at the same time, again, it definitely is the solution. Because I'm pretty sure you get lots of positive feedback as well. But I get positive feedback in general way more direct as well, because I deal with people in person, and what I get back is this instant gratitude and happiness, and this connection that you build, because you're not just that random guy that I met that I had a nice chat on a party or whatever, but you're actually that guy who does that really weird thing, who gives things away for free. Wrong with that guy. And that is actually a really good thing. It makes a great connection with people, and I think that's where unity and community can come in and create something really great.
So you said that you're doing some things, right? You have some projects. What do you do? What kind of things do you do?
Yeah, so when I came up with this idea of the gift economy, oh no, that's actually wrong. It's when I discovered it, because obviously I didn't make it up, but when I discovered it, I was like, oh man, this is a great theory, but we need to put it in practice. We actually need to do it. So I just took my skills, the things that I can do, and the money that I had, and created something that practices it and goes ahead with a good example, so that people can say like, oh wow, this guy can do it, even though he doesn't have much money, but if he can do it, I can do it too, and he seems really happy doing it, so I should maybe try it as well. And that's just that thing. So my skills are, I used to be a commercial surf instructor, so I offered free surf lessons. I got some gear, also sponsored by friends and donations, and also my own money that I saved up. And I taught people surfing. And then, as I said earlier, I learned about permaculture. So I did an internship, and I practiced permaculture, and I did some workshops. So I taught people permaculture in my own place. And on top of that, I do yoga for over 10 years now, for 15 years, I think, something like that. So I started teaching yoga and meditation as well, because I practice that almost as much. So I just figured, like, if that benefits me and I have a lot of fun doing that, I have a lot of fun teaching. That's what I discovered being a commercial instructor. But all that money basically takes away all the joy, because what you're actually doing when you ask for money is that you put that other person and yourself a lot under pressure, because that other person says like, oh, I paid money, so it really needs to be worth it now, and I need to use every single second of that course. So they were disappointed if it wasn't to their expectation, and they were disappointed by themselves if they couldn't last for the length of the course. But when you take that money out of the equation, all of a sudden it becomes like a really joyful act. It's just two happy people.
That's how it should be. That's how it should be. Like it
should be normal.
That should be normal. It's very fucked up in today's society when you give such lessons and you give them because you expect to buy something new for your car or something. You don't do it for the sake of doing them, and that's just really mentally it's a disturbing thing that we don't see it because we are so used to it. I think Sasha said it nicely one time. Is like, imagine the opposite. Imagine it's a society where everybody will be like Dan, and providing things in this kind of fashion. But some people come along and say, oh no, hey, I have a new idea. I'll teach you, surf, but you give me something back, and we make this kind of thing. You'll say, oh, that's a creepy kind of guy. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, like that's really fucked up.
It's really fucked up. What the fuck?
Or like I pretend to give you some like free software, but then I'm like taking your data without you even knowing it, or
Yeah.
it's just
And
creepy.
that's even a reality what you're talking about. So yeah, but if people knew about it, and like if they actually have to pay for it, then obviously no one would do that if they have another choice. If they can have it for free, they will definitely take it for free. And yeah, it's very creepy. But the other way, like this new old way of trade free or gift economy is just perfect because it's so enjoyable for both parts. I experienced that as well because when I was teaching, that pressure was also on my side, because people paid me lots of money. So I was trying to make them as happy as possible. And that kind of took away from my authenticity, which is a little bit of a problem because they could also feel that, of course. And if you turn it around again, then I can be authentic. I have more fun. In turn, people have more fun. And it just becomes a way more joyful experience and just adding community and connection and gratitude on top of that. Because also that is where I see a huge benefit of this approach, of this trade-free approach, is that after after the deal, you can say, like after whatever you're given or received for free, people have a certain connection to each other, and they're both happy and did something good for both of them. And I think that's not to underestimate, because again, the separation is a big problem. So if that creates community, then we're going in the right direction with that, for sure.
Yeah, and I think again you can use like couch surfing versus Airbnb as another example, because when you stay for free with somebody on couch surfing, or someone stays with you for free, you usually form like a bond, a friendship, and that's kind of what it's about. You create this community and this friendship. Whereas if you pay for somebody to stay, say, in their house in Airbnb, then it's a service and you're their client. So you don't really usually form, I mean, you can on a rare occasion, but it's not about forming a relationship with these people. It's just about paying for a service.
You
So
can
I think
look
very
at
important as well.
the tourism industry here. For example, we live in a very touristy town, and my family works in, like, they basically clean after the tourists. That's what they do. And you will see that people trash the places. And many times probably it's because, I just have some free time and this is fucking service, and I paid for cleaning, someone will come and clean. But if you were in this kind of relationship, like couch surfing kind of relationship, you're like, I'm not going to trash this guy's fucking house. He let me here for free. I'm not gonna have it. I'm like a jackass, right?
Yeah, and it's mostly about forming friendships, and getting to know people. So.
And I think that's what you mentioned is an important aspect, because also what we talked before about problems, and there's so many of them in this world. Many people say that climate change is probably one of the biggest problems humanity is facing in this moment. But if you actually think about it, how do you want to solve climate change in that system that we're currently having? It's basically impossible. We have to change that system at least somehow. It doesn't necessarily have to be a gift economy. Maybe there's solutions that we haven't come up with yet, but there surely needs to be a certain change. But I think that with the approach of trade-free or gift economy and this creation of community, people definitely realize that what they really need is not a new, I don't know how big, 2-meter screen TV and new sports car and like holidays in Bali and then Hawaii and then in the Philippines and then whatever. People will realize that what they really need is connection. They need happy and nice people around them, and then they're happy too. And there's actually a study that I tell everyone about because I love it. If I can bring that in for a moment, So there's some researchers, and I'm pretty sure you guys know about it too. There's some researchers that took mice and they put it in solitary confinement, and they gave them a choice of water and water that was strained with cocaine. So they could potentially become a drug addict. And well, the obvious thing happened, and all the mice became cocaine addicts. Then they repeated this experiment, and this time they built a paradise for them. They had a huge cage. They put them all together. They gave them straw and toys to play and plenty of food and everything a mice basically wants to have. But
Netflix.
Oh.
Yeah, I know the study. Yeah, sure, say.
Yeah, and then just to complete it for anyone who's listening, they still had the same choice. They had water or water with cocaine, and a very surprising thing happened, which was that all the mice they were just going for water, and occasionally they were nibbling a little bit on the cocaine, probably to have a good time, but it was rather rare. And that showed, like, the conclusion is basically, well, we are not mice, but we're probably similar somehow. The conclusion is that addiction is not caused by the drug itself, but addiction is because we are lacking something in our life. And if you want to take consumerism as an addiction as well, or let it be sugar or experiences or porn or buying things, then surely this also is not because it's so addictive, not because sports cars are so great, but rather because we are lacking something else in our life and we try to substitute that with that kind of drug. And therefore, I think that's the big solution, or where the gift economy can be a great solution again, because we can create this community, this abundance of things as well. And then we don't even want these destructive drugs anymore. And then we will also solve climate change in a certain way, because we will stop consuming. And that for me actually was the main driver to start with this whole thing. And then I discovered about all the other perks on the way, which are even greater than I ever imagined. But yeah, as you say, like there's this connection that stops us from littering and polluting and all that. It's a great solution, for sure.
Yeah, of course, always you have to look at what creates this behavior or that behavior. If you don't look at that, then you just try to put people in jails and that's it. I think it's a great example here where I have a neighbor. She has a dog, and both of them are very old, and the dog pisses inside the house all the time, and it smells so bad. Like, everybody complains, like, extremely bad. Like, we cannot open the window. It's really bad. And we complain many times, like, can we do something about this? And they try all kinds of solutions, they come and clean once a week, then they come and clean once every few days, come and clean daily, whatever. It's not going to make a difference. You clean daily, that dog pisses after a half an hour you leave, it smells really bad. So it's like, that's how we deal in this society, right? We just take the trash, put it in the trash bin, and then move on. Like, tomorrow we do the same. Instead of saying, what makes people create this pollution? Why isn't that big companies don't want to solve climate change? Because they have an incentive not to change climate change or to invest into all kinds of renewables and so forth. So we need to look where the human behavior comes from. I think that's one of the big also points in what we do at TROM, and the next documentary will be human behavior. Like, what is with the human behavior? Because in the end, what creates these problems? Not like aliens. It's not your dog who is the fault there, Dan, because it doesn't have anything to say in what we do in this planet. It's us human beings, right? So what makes us be so awful? And some other people will be not awful. Like, what makes Dan want to make free things for other people, and he finds so much meaning in his life, or me and Sasha and Cody and others? Why do we do these things for free, and why are other people chasing profits? So we need to look into that. That's how you should do it. And I gave this example in the past in TROM-Cast. I was talking to this girl who's wanting to get involved with UN, and UN is like United Nations, right? They want to unite us all, and she went to all kinds of youth panels and so forth. But I'm asking her like a simple question, like, how many times in your youth panels do you talk about human behavior? And she's never, like, we don't even consider that to talk about human behavior. But how come? You need to understand where problems come from, because they go into these poor areas, like some African villages or tribes, countries, whatever, and they want to make those people, raise them from poverty by making them entrepreneurs. And you make your own business, but that will influence them to enslave other people or to waste in their way there. Right? You don't solve it like that. You have to understand what in the environment makes us so awful, so charlatans, right? So I think that's extremely important. Tell people that, we're just not born like that. No, the environment makes us so miserable. And like you're saying, it's a lot of meaning out of these things that you do for free, for the sake of doing them. Because I've been doing this for like, I don't know, 15 years now, maybe. All kinds of online stuff. Like, I'm not like Dan. I'm extremely not very social. Maybe that's why sometimes I struggle to understand these things. I'm very like, just leave me alone. I will not be able to meditate. Like, I cannot stay. I have so much I don't know, my brain is something wrong with it. But I do these online things. I'm obsessed now. I'm doing these big books, documentaries, whatever. If I were to die tomorrow, I've been living the best of my life. Like, I'm so happy. I don't look forward to buy a fucking car or an apartment, right? Most people in this world find their happiness in ads. Basically, they chase ads. So I think, like, I want a house, and that's not enough. I want a couch, that's not enough. I want a TV, that's not enough. I do more and more. But for us, because we do these things for free, it gives so much of a different meaning of our lives, So I think that's extremely important also, It's not just that you create these things for people, it's also for you. So we have to emphasize that too. It's also for you. Do it for you as well. You find a lot of meaning.
Yeah, and it was really nice, this documentary about RNLI, this volunteer group of lifeguards all over the UK. And if they go and they volunteer and they save people, and it's completely trade-free. And because of this, they've created this entire community over this. And of course, they're all just happy volunteers, and sometimes they even put themselves into dangerous situations to save other people. But they're happy to do it, and you can see that they really get a lot out of it, because they formed this community again of people that just want to help for free.
It follows the trend. If you look at, for example, I looked in the origin of most problems at goods and services that are trade-free. So from my perspective, if someone gives to me, organization, people, whatever, something that is, they don't want anything in return, is trade-free for me. If you usually look at those organizations, mostly they also form community bonds. They also form a community there, whatever. Like in open source, you'll see this. In Doctors.org, there's no kinds of volunteers. You will find that, So that's another plus, I would say. And because Cody, you didn't, I'm sorry, it's just you have just an image for me, just you're like this all the time. So I'm like, is he upset on me?
Yes.
What do you think about this gift economy, and how does it match with your reality? Huh?
Ooh.
About that?
Oh, it's definitely in line with I guess my ethos and whatever, and just not perpetuating that separation and realizing that we are kind of this giant organism, and screwing over other people as if it was like a separate act that you could do to just that one person, like that feeds back into the system. That negativity feeds back into the system in the form of whatever you did to that person influences their life and the decisions they're going to make and how they're going to be to people. The opposite being like if you're doing the good things to other people, that reaches you too, kind of thing. This pay it forward idea, this gifting, sharing. That's all good for me, brother. I'm all down for that.
That's good. You should go and take some lessons from.
That's right. Dan. Yeah, right. How do I give shit away for free?
You're in US? Dan, are you in US?
Yeah.
And you live? Yeah.
Where?
I'm currently
your internet.
It doesn't want to disclose.
This wild country is apparently.
Yeah, your internet just. But well. That's fine if you don't want to tell us. It's okay.
Yeah, whatever. Keep it for yourself, man.
I see both Dan and Cody frozen.
Yeah, they.
The conspiracy is complete.
For good reasons,
That's right. We're gonna gift economy. Yeah, just us, only us. We're just gonna gift each other. You guys aren't allowed. Get out of here.
Let's try to wrap it up maybe, and like with our
Hopefully, I'll
last
pop back. Yeah.
Yes,
thoughts,
if Dan
hopefully.
comes back in.
Yeah, in the meantime, then maybe we'll come back. So what do you think, Sasha, about this gift economy idea?
Yeah, I think as long as people have kind of the same mentality as Dan, and that you shouldn't expect to get anything back, even if you're expecting to get something back later or from another person or whatever. I think the best way is just to purely give things away, trade free, and not expect anything in return, and have people understand why this is important and why we have so many problems in the world. And specifically, like we talk about here, most of these problems are a result of this need to constantly trade to get what we need to survive with on this planet. So yeah, I mean, if that's an idea you want to promote, I think as long as it's this kind of pure, no obligation to give back, then I like the idea.
Yeah, that's
Sorry,
great.
then you
Well,
cut out.
yes, we are trying to wrap everything up, and because like, in a few minutes. So, well, I was asking Sasha what she thinks about this gift economy idea, and I'll ask you the same. What like your last thoughts about this gift economy idea? What is it similar? How similar it is what we do?
And
Like,
you sorry, and you cut off right before you were telling us where you live.
yeah,
We understand you
of
tell us
course.
it's okay. Cody might
Of course, of course.
Well,
You can start with that, and then like a summary of this idea of gift economy. So you can start where you are from and what you are doing there, basically, and just a summary.
yeah, the funny thing is, the reason why I cut off basically explains where I am, because I'm living off grid.
Ah.
Completely off grid?
Yeah, completely off grid. I basically live in a van, and I'm always at different properties. I help people accomplish their dreams, you can say. I help them with permaculture design, and well, just help them on the land, mostly growing food and well, having a good time, trying to inspire people as well. And at the same time, for myself, finding a place where I can host workshops as I used to do when I was in one place for a bit longer. This is what I try to establish again because I'm really missing to work with people. But in general, I'm in Portugal at the moment. But yeah, who knows where I'll be in whatever time. So yeah, I'm kind of a nomad basically.
Nice.
And yeah, I explained earlier what I did. So I hosted these workshops in yoga, permaculture, meditation, and surfing. And yeah, I perpetuated that idea of the gift economy with that. Now that I'm moving around a little bit more again, I started doing things online as well, but also still very personalized. So I do web design and I help people with their wishes to come true. And one of the probably also unique things is that I started to give people a little card that they can have to remember basically the gift they gotten. This is also an invitation at the same time for them to, you can say, pay it forward, or to experience that joy of giving. And at the same time, there's little motivation built into it as well because these cards are trackable, still anonymously, but you can see where the card has been before and where it goes next. So every time, if you opt in for that service, you can get an email when your card that you passed on together with the gift gets passed on again. You will get an email and you can see that with that one little action, you reached so many other people, and you also perpetuated this idea. I think that was a little funny idea I had, and people seem to like it because it's a nice motivation as well. For me, it was to remind people about what they received, so they can remember their happiness that they received as well. And
how do you keep track of, how do you track those cards?
Oh, very simple, because they have numbers on them, so they're unique cards. So when I give a card to you, for example, you get number 1822. So you can go online, punch in these numbers, and then you can see where it has been before, and also register it in on your account. Not that you have a real account, but you just can say like, I received it here and there, and I received this and that. All these details are optional. You can see what the person before entered, and then you can opt into that service of while putting in your email, so you can see where it went, goes after. But it's completely anonymous, so there's no data mining or anything with that involved, because I really wanted to stay away from that. Yeah.
Nice.
Do you think you can create a bit of an obligation if you give me that card to like trying to like give it to someone else? Don't just like leave it at home.
No, because this is I thought long and hard about it. This is also why I don't register it in your name, but you can register it in your name if you want to. So there's no obligation, because I don't see if you enter it or not. Yeah.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, so it's a voluntary thing. Like if I receive it, then if I want to submit that code there, so you can keep track of that, or I see where it has been, it's up to me. You don't track it any other way. It's just like that. Okay.
Exactly.
So the idea is kind of to see this idea spread, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. There's even a little map if people put in their location, or where they receive, put in the location, and so you have a little map where you can see, where, and there's little dots on it. So yeah, it's a little gimmick, basically. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but to wrap it up, I think I said the most important things. It's just very important, again, that we build this from the bottom up, and that it's voluntary. It's not a system that needs to be implemented. It's also, I don't see it as an opposition to capitalism, or however you want to call this, what we're having right now. But it's rather a transformation to something more positive, mostly for the people, because in the end, each and every one of us asks themselves, what do we really want? What is my value? Like what are my values? What do I want to achieve in this world? And I'm not talking about career or anything, just like, what do I want to have in my life? And you said it so nicely earlier. When you do these things for free, you just have a lot of joy. So all I can do is recommend it to people, because it also transformed my life a lot. I went from very deep depression and anxiety and being lost and sucked into this vortex of capitalism, to a very free and spiritual person that, right now is not stoppable. So just can encourage everyone else to do it as well. Not to create any huge major system, but just to have a good life.
Okay, keep on doing it then.
Oh yeah.
I feel like you're a very calm dude.
Very positive.
That's positive comment. That's very good. I can you can tell if someone meets you, probably you can tell that you live the life that you kind of want to live. You seem happy, content. Yeah, and I would say, like in summary, I would say, I definitely agree with whatever Dan is saying about the gift economy. It's in some little nuances, it's different from what I've read on Wikipedia or other sources, that this is an obligation. We shouldn't be with an obligation. I would say that my focus was always about describing the action rather than the motive behind. So that's why I call it as a trade-free. I do something trade-free because I think the action will precede will give rise to the motivation, or to meaning. If you keep on doing trade-free things here and there, I think people getting helped by those will also get a point, that you are trying to do. They'll be like, okay, that's free, that's great, I can use these things. Who are these people? Maybe you'll influence them in that way. So my focus will always maybe be on the action itself. As long as it's trade-free, I don't care. Motivations will come later, I think, out of this thing. And another important thing, I will always try to talk about the problem, which I describe as trade, because I think doing free things is great, but if you don't talk about, why do you do them, and to me, I do them because this trade-based society is so fucked up, then it will just become another free thing that you do, may inspire others and so forth, but I feel like maybe not enough. That's my approach, So we have to have all kinds of approaches, and I'm happy to see people like Dan doing these kinds of things in this more different personal way, because I'm more exposed to the online world, and people doing things en masse, like software and so forth. So it's very good to hear there are people like you too, of course. And yeah, keep on doing it. And if Cody wants to say anything,
give me gifts.
And you'll give them back.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
but
I won't feel obligated.
Don't feel obligated.
I think the more people there are like that, the better our world can be. So this was one of
Yeah.
our very few positive.
Yeah, an unintentional positive
Have to do a negative one next time. Don't worry.
Yes.
No, you don't. I can actually give all that back because it's, I'm very happy to get to know you, and I'm happy that a friend of mine actually found you. I think, by the way, through Instagram. So some
Wow.
digging into this little bullshit sometimes it's worth it. Because, so I'm glad you were there, and I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. Yeah, same thing. Keep on doing what you're doing. I love it.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah.
and we're glad that you came also.
Thank you for participating.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having
Are
me.
you familiar with the Venus Project and Zeitgeist and that? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I am. Yeah.
In tune.
Okay, well, it's not up on this.
Yeah, no. Not going there, no. No, the TROM-Cast.
That's not a discussion. Okay, then I think we can end it here, and it was,
All
it was a
right.
very good pod. Yeah.
Excelente.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay,
All right,
thanks, guys.
people.
Bye,
See you soon.
everyone.
Bye bye.
Fade, fade, fade.